Hello, everybody, and welcome. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I'm super stoked that you registered for this webinar, and I promise to make it worthwhile. I know everybody's logging in right now, and I just want to take a moment real quick to acknowledge you. I know people are joining us from all over the world today, and for some of you it's the morning, some of you it's the afternoon, some of you it's the evening. Wherever you are in the world, no matter what time it is, I really appreciate you being here. And I promise to give you some really good content today and tools and strategies to help you really make some dramatic shifts in your life. What are we going to focus on? Well, over the next 50 minutes, I'm going to be teaching you the zero limit system. And this is a system I've created to help you get unstuck, to help you eliminate stress and anxiety from your life, and at the same time building self-confidence so that you can ultimately live a meaningful life, a life that's filled with happiness and abundance. I've had the distinct honor and privilege to work with thousands of people from all over the world, and I've seen the system, I've taught this system to them, and I've seen it happen time and time again, that people are able to create profound change in their life. Many of these folks were people that when they came to me initially, they were so consumed by stress, by anxiety. They were lacking self-confidence. They had no sense of self-love or sense of certainty in life. In fact, it was the exact opposite. Their life was filled with uncertainty, and to the point where they felt almost paralyzed. And they were at a place where they were so stuck they didn't know what to do to change any of it. And so what happened was they kept repeating the same thing over and over. They kept going through more of the same. Once they started applying the zero limit system to their life, the same system I'm going to teach you, all of that changed for them. And I'm proud to say that many of these folks have been able to go on and create just amazingly happy, amazingly abundant, and amazingly fulfilled lives. I get emails from so many of them regularly, and lots of emails from the ones who are still current clients, and it's an absolute joy reading them and seeing the transformation. So that's what we're focusing on today. Okay, let's jump in. Well, who's this for? If you're someone who's stuck and you fear living the rest of your life feeling this way, if you're someone who's stressed out and overwhelmed with uncertainty, if you feel like you'll never be enough, I've struggled with those feelings at times in my life where, no matter what you do, no matter how hard you try, no matter how many people you try to please, it just seems like no matter what, you're never going to be enough. If that's you, this is for you. If you're someone who wants to feel vibrant and full of life and confidence, you're one of those people who just want to glow. We all know those types of people, right? When we see them, we meet them, we wish so much we could be like them because they have this affect about them. There's like this glow about them. This is for you if you're fed up feeling anxious and uncertain. If you're fed up feeling anxious and uncertain, you're sick and tired of the feeling sick and tired, right? You know what that means. It's just you're fed up, you're anxious, you're overwhelmed, you're sick and tired of feeling that way. I love that expression, sick and tired of feeling sick and tired. It's so poignant. You're just fed up with it. If you're someone who you want to become who you were born to be, meaning that deep down there's a magic inside of you. And if you're that person who's finally ready to bring out that magic and be that person you were born to be, you're in the right place. If you're someone who's over lying awake at night worrying, right? You're over whether it's worrying about the bills you have to pay, whether it's worrying about being on time to work, whether it's worrying about if you're going to be able to better communicate with your spouse, if you're worrying about how your kids view you, what kind of life you're creating for them, if you're laying in bed at night worrying about just not being able to sleep, or the things that have happened, or maybe you're somebody who's laying in bed at night wondering, gosh, is this all that life has to offer? Meaning there's nothing more beyond this. Then you're in the right place. And if you're someone who's constantly haunted by the what ifs, you spend your life wondering, what if this happens, what if this happens, the worst case scenario stuff, you're in the right place, and we're going to help you solve all that here today. This is for you. If you're someone who feels unhealthy, God, I can tell you when I was going through challenging times in my life, I've never felt so unhealthy. Yeah, and at the same time, I was someone who craved passion and excitement. If that's you, you're in the right place. This is for you if you're over dead-end relationships, right? You're over those dead-end relationships. we've all been there, where you date the same person, it's just they have a different name, meaning it just seems like you throw your heart and soul into something, and then it ends up crash bang, and you're back with brokenhearted and frustrated and starting from scratch. This is for you if you want to greet the day with a sense of certainty. Gosh, can you imagine that? Just waking up every morning, absolutely certain and totally confident about what the day has in store, knowing that you are the captain of your ship, and today you get to decide which direction you're going to sail. This is for you if deep down you know you're meant for more. And deep down, what you're meant for is much more than what you've gotten. And lastly, this is for you if you're someone who's fed up, waking up in the middle of the night, heart pounding, mind racing, and your body covered in the sweat of worry, overwhelm, and uncertainty. We've all been there. I can't tell you how many times in the early parts of my life that I was there, where I'd wake up and my pillows were just drenched with sweat, and I'd wake up shaking, so uncertain about my tomorrow. And God, it makes me emotional even remembering it, and just so uncertain about my tomorrow, because all I could focus on in the moment was all that was wrong with my life. If you're there, my heart goes out to you. And again, I'm so grateful that you're here at this webinar right now, because this is going to help you get past that. During this webinar, here's what I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you exactly how to get unstuck and become an unstoppable force in your life. I'm going to teach you the key to eliminating stress, anxiety, and overwhelm. There's a big key in this all, and again, it's not a bunch of steps. It's not a long process. There's one big key to it all. And I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do to create happiness and abundance in your life. Life is too short, and I believe life should be meant as life is meant to be lived, happy, fulfilled, and abundance is available to us all. Whether that abundance is financial abundance, whether it's abundance in your success in relationships, in your own health, whatever abundance is for you, that potential is there for us all, and I'm going to show you how to get it. What I'm also going to do is get you crystal clear clarity on your path to purpose and fulfillment. We all know deep down that we're meant for something more. I know you know that. I don't think you'd be here if that wasn't the case. And while you may not know exactly what that is yet, because you have something blocking you, what we're going to focus on today is how you can get that block removed, how you can get unstuck with that, and get clear clarity on what exactly it is you need to do to live out your purpose and get to a place of fulfillment, whatever fulfillment is for you in your life. And you're going to learn the number one thing that you're unconsciously doing right now, which keeps you stressed out, anxious, and ultimately prevents you from experiencing the happiness and abundance you deserve. There's a key thing that needs to happen. I've seen this time and time again. Successful people do this one thing that leads them to a path of abundance and prosperity and happiness and joy and fulfillment. And the people who aren't succeeding in that way, they're not doing it. And there's this one key thing that we'll be sharing today. Now here's the deal. My promise to you is this. I'm going to want to be upfront that there's nothing for sale in this webinar, but I do have a special gift for you at the end. This is going to be a really cool gift, and I'm excited to share it with you because, if I can continue to be transparent, of all the things I get to do in my career and what I do with people I work with, this gift that I want to give to you is probably my favorite thing to do. And I'm really excited to be able to share it with you at the end here. Now, let me ask you this. Do you ever feel this way? Do you ever feel, bury your hand in the sand because you're so stuck? You just feel completely stuck, and at the same time, you're overwhelmed with stress? Do you ever feel like you're just consumed by anxiety and you're unhappy and unfulfilled? Do you ever feel uncertain why others seem to get it and you still can't? Do you ever feel you just wish you could hide from the world? Let's be honest. When those times where you're so consumed with stress, when you feel so anxious and right, it all feeds into each other. Stress and anxiety, it leads to unhappiness. Unhappiness leads to stress and anxiety. So it becomes this vicious circle so much so, right? And you don't know how to escape it, the only logical thing that seems to do in those moments of high stress, those moments of high anxiety, those moments where you feel so unhappy, is to bury your head in the sand. Because at least there you could hide. Do you feel like failure follows you? Do you ever feel like you're fed up with feeling with this, and you feel like you're fed up with unfulfilling and dead-end relationships? You feel like you wish you had more confidence. Gosh, what could you accomplish in your life with confidence? I'll share more of my story in a little bit, but I'll just say this real quick. I can remember times in my life where I limited myself so much because of my lack of confidence. And, for example, with speaking, I would be terrified about even the idea of getting up and speaking to an audience. And I made so many excuses that kept me from doing that. About me not being good enough, me not being prepared. Everybody would laugh at me, what everybody would think of me, so on and so forth. I don't have to tell you all the excuses. You may have made some before. The irony is now speaking and sharing content like this with folks like you, it's easily my greatest joy in my life. And to think that I robbed myself of so much of my joy in life because I lacked the confidence, that to me is nothing short of tragic. And part of my mission now in life and helping people like yourself is making sure that they never have to live experiencing that tragedy for themselves. They do not have to live any unnecessary amount of time going through life not feeling confident about what they're doing. That they can have confidence in all that they're doing and who they are. Are you somebody who feels like you're overflowing with uncertainty and that you were meant for more? And most importantly, that you're stuck and you're uncertain of how to change? I say most importantly because oftentimes I found that to be one of the biggest barriers for folks when they want to change. Is there's this stuckness and there's this uncertainty that comes with it. It's like if you can imagine yourself standing at a fork in the road and you have these options in front of you and neither one of them is crystal clear on which way to go. So how are you supposed to make a decision, right? There's this uncertainty that comes with it, and that uncertainty can be overwhelming. It can be so consuming, and what ends up happening is instead of making a decision about which path to go, we do one of two things. We sit down and wait and hope for a sign, or we continue down the path that we've gone on, which ultimately produces more of what we've already gotten. More stress, more anxiety, more overwhelm, more heartbreak, more frustration. But at least it's familiar. At least it's familiar. That's where uncertainty can be such a significant deterrent to change, because uncertainty breeds familiarity. We get so terrified and so worked up about what might happen, those what ifs, that we'll continue to settle for what is. And again, it does not have to be that way. Let me ask you this. What does it cost you to be stuck? I think this is a really powerful question, because oftentimes we don't think of just how much it's costing us right now to continue to live our life the way it is. Is it costing you a sense of purpose, joy in your life? Is it costing you love, happiness? What about passion? Do you feel like there's a passion in your life that you want it to be? Do you feel like you have a sense of adventure that you get to live out every day? Confidence. Does it cost you your confidence to remain stuck? What about your relationships? Does you being stuck where you are, does it affect your relationships? Abundance, right? Or do you have the level of abundance in your life that you want? Whether that's an abundance of love, whether it's financial abundance, spiritual abundance, whatever the abundance is for you, is you're being stuck? Is it affecting that? How about your kids? I don't know if you have kids, and if you do, does this affect them? I use that as an example, and it's one that really touches me, because my parents were definitely those parents that spent a huge amount of their life stuck. And I know, for me personally, it dramatically affected my early upbringings in life. So much so to the point that at 8 years old, I had made plans to commit suicide. I went down into the woods, had the knife pressed up to my chest, the whole thing, because in my mind I thought that if I wasn't there, it would help my mom. It would bail her out of this prison she seemed like she was in. I loved my mom so much, and I just didn't want her to be in pain, and she seemed like it was in constant pain. And so I lovingly offer up that suggestion of you being stuck. Does it affect your kids? Because I was a kid who my parents' stuckness affected. And if it is, I just want you to acknowledge that, because this is how important it is for you to apply what we're going to talk about today. Make sure you make the change. So instead of those great things in life, you end up getting stuff like this. No purpose, fear, doubt, overwhelm, right? I mean, just constant overwhelm, worry, unhappiness, unfulfilling relationships, burnout, depressed, right? You get the idea. Instead of getting the good stuff in life, the happiness, love, joy, and sense of purpose, instead we're getting the exact opposites. We're anxious all the time. There's this constant feeling that's weighing down about not being enough. There's an overwhelming sense of uncertainty. The feeling of being unlovable. Maybe you're one of these, maybe you're 5 of them, maybe you feel one at one time and one at another time, maybe you feel all of them right now. Maybe there's one that sticks out more, like no confidence, that you're feeling right now. I get this, and I know what that feels like, because these are all feelings that I felt before too. I know what it feels like to not have confidence. I know what it feels like to feel like I'm not, no matter what, I'll never be enough. I know what it feels like to always be uncertain, and it's my heart goes out to you, because it is so unbearably painful. This is not what we were born for, to get stress in life and to be flooded with emotional pain. Again, whether you're feeling one of these or all of these, I'm really glad you're here, because this is going to help you. After seeing that last slide, it might bring to the question, do you feel like your life is giving you everything you don't want? You see, I find that oftentimes people are so stressed out and so overwhelmed. It's like that person. Yeah, if you go to the grocery store, I love this photo because I think it's such a powerful photo. You go to the grocery store and you're standing there and you want to get one or two things, and you're in an aisle and you're literally bogged down with so many choices to make that you could stand there indefinitely and never make a choice, because which choice is the right for you? That stressed out and that overwhelm can be so consuming, and it can be so decision limiting. But no more. You're here now, and it's time to fix this. It's time to fix this once and for all. You see, what I found is all these things we've been talking about, they're ultimately symptoms of your real problem. Stress is a byproduct, anxiety is a byproduct. We see them as a problem, and they are, but they're ultimately, at the end of the day, they're simply symptoms of the real problem. And ultimately, your problem is not the problem. Okay, and that's a problem, because we think that the problem is a problem. So think about that for a moment. Your problem is not the problem. Meaning the stress, the anxiety, while it's problematic, it's not the real problem. Ultimately, what's causing that, whatever is beneath that, that's going to be the real problem. To fix the problem, what I found is you have to have the right system. You got to have the right system, plain and simple. Problems don't get solved without the right system. I shouldn't say that. People do win the lottery. People do win the lottery, meaning that you may be able to roll the dice and eventually you hit the jackpot. More often than not, though, the odds of winning the lottery are 1 in 40 some million. What I've seen time and time again, without fail, works having the right system. Because it's step-by-step, formulaic. You apply the system, it's going to work every time. Just the same as when you go and you put your key in the ignition of your car, you turn it on, the car turns on. The right system is not the latest trendy self-help solution. We've all seen those infomercials that promise the moon and want to deliver the stars, but then nothing happens. And this is not a quick fix program. Okay, there is going to be some work involved. Again, I want to be transparent with you. This is not going to be wave the magic wand and poof, things are better. There's going to be some work involved. This is not, like I said, the late night infomercial product. It's just not going to be that. The right system is going to be the exact opposite of that. And of course, like I said, it's not the magic cure-all formula. There's got to be some work involved. Now, here's what's going to happen. Once you implement the zero limit system, you'll find yourself fairly quickly filled with confidence. And this is no exaggeration. You will see, change happens very quickly. Change happens very quickly. If you think about change like the frames in a movie, meaning that each movie that we watch, whether it's an hour movie or a 2 hour movie or whatever it is, that's made up of millions and millions and millions of frames of film. But the film's pieced together and it goes by very quickly to form the image that we see on the screen. If we were to watch the movie frame by frame by frame, millions of frames, it would take us years to watch one movie. But it doesn't happen. It blends together and it comes together very quickly, so we're able to present the whole picture. Change happens very quickly because change can be like frames in a film blending together to form a whole picture. Once you implement this system, you're going to find that you're going to be able to be finally free from anxiety, stress, and overwhelm. You're going to get to the point where you can sleep through the night and no longer waking up to the worry. I feel confident in saying that, not just because I've seen my clients do this, but because I am a former recovering insomniac, meaning that I used to be the person that I would stress out about going to bed, what time I was going to bed, stress about not getting enough sleep, and then I'd wake up in the middle of the night lying there stressed about not falling back to sleep. And then I'd spend my time thinking about bills to pay, all these other things, right? I don't do that anymore. If you ask any of my friends, anybody who knows me, they will say they're jealous of my sleep habits because I can fall asleep pretty much anywhere, whenever I want, and get a really sound sleep and wake up rested. You're going to also be happy. Wow, how simple. What a simple concept. Just to be happy, and yet so many of us go through our life not being happy. That's going to happen for you. And you'll be able to create an abundance in your life. You're going to finally get the abundance you want. Now here's the thing. With the zero limit system, you're going to have a clear purpose and strong passion for life. And you'll have the confidence to accomplish virtually anything without the stress, anxiety, uncertainty, and overwhelm you're living with now. When I say virtually anything, that's no exaggeration. I have seen this system applied in countless areas, whether it's health, fitness, business, money, relationships. It works. And so whatever you want to apply this system to, you can accomplish that which you apply it to, and you can do it without the stress and anxiety and the uncertainty that go with it. And ultimately, you'll have the ability to fill your life with fun, love, and adventure. Right? Imagine that. Again, the life you would live that would be filled with love and adventure and fun. Something as simple as being able to spend most of the day with a smile on your face. I think about that often for myself. I'm a smiley kind of guy. And sometimes I take it for granted because just smiling brings so much joy into my life. And I know a lot of people out there aren't doing that. So I'm glad that you're somebody who's committed to making that change. There's only 5 steps you need to take in order to get unstuck, eliminate the stress and anxiety from your life while creating an immense amount of confidence so that you can finally live a meaningful life filled with happiness and abundance. And I want to reiterate this right up front. Do not stress, because this isn't rocket science or anything like that. I'm not a rocket scientist. I don't play one on TV. I had struggled through science actually all through high school. In chemistry, physics, and I didn't touch rocket science. So if I can do it, you can do it too. In fact, most of these things I'm going to teach are things that you might be doing in a similar way right now, but just not in the right way. But real quick, before we get to that, I want to just introduce myself formally. So who am I? Well, my name's Jesse Brisendine. I live in Santa Barbara, California, and to date I am proud to say that I have successfully helped over 4,000 people create happy and meaningful lives by eliminating stress and anxiety. I have clients that have that range from all over the world. I think I've worked with folks on pretty much every continent, save for Antarctica, and it's been, again, like I've said throughout this webinar, the greatest joy in my life is helping people. I grew up in a very, very small town, and much of my early years were lived feeling constantly stressed and anxious. I used to be very shy, horribly insecure, and had zero confidence. And I was consumed by painfully self-deprecating and depressive thoughts is an understatement. As I mentioned earlier, I had gone down and 8 years old, had the knife to my chest, fully prepared to commit suicide. And to give you another example, I was so insecure with myself and I had so little self-confidence. I used to spend my high school days, kid you not, every day before I'd go to class, I would spend upwards of 30 minutes picking my nose because I was so afraid that if anybody saw a booger, they would see me for the ugly person that I saw myself as. I can remember going into high school my freshman year, and the first week or two, my body was covered in hives. I had stressed myself out so much. I was so anxious and overwhelmed about what might happen, the what ifs of high school, that I was literally creating a negative physical reaction in my body. I've been there. I get it. And I've been able to overcome it, and I've been able to help thousands of other people work through it too. Now, how did I discover the zero limit system? Well, I was at a point in my life where I was struggling with my job, and I had pretty much emptied out my savings account. Along at the same time, my girlfriend of nearly 3 years had just left me. It was just a domino effect of events where she all of a sudden broke up with me. I decided to go and work for myself because I needed to change things up. Well, right when I did that, the United States hit a, what did they call, recession, and I lost about 80% of my clientele overnight because they were in fields that were affected pretty severely by the recession. I was literally emptied my savings, living off of credit cards. I think I ran up about $30,000 or $40,000 in debt at that time, and that wasn't even the worst of it. The worst of it was I woke up every day feeling uncertain, uninspired, and unhappy. I can remember there were days I felt so stuck that I just didn't know how to overcome the feelings of depression and stress I was fighting with. I can remember vividly a time coming home from work, falling down to my knees, elbows on my bed, praying to God to fix me or to give me the strength to not wake up tomorrow. Because I didn't want to keep living my life feeling the way I was feeling like a failure, feeling uncertain, feeling the pain I was feeling the overwhelm I was feeling. At that time, I thought I'd rather be dead than continue living my life the way I was. And this is ultimately, this was my rock bottom. Before we jump into the system, I need to explain something really important to you. You see, success is available to all of us, but oftentimes we don't achieve what we want. And what I've found is time and time again that there's three major myths, and I would say these are the biggest myths that ultimately hold people back and are likely holding you back from achieving the results you want. And you need to understand these myths so that you can address them if and when they come up, and then ultimately apply the zero limit system in a way that's going to lead to you achieving the results you want. So here they are. The three biggest myths that hold you back are, number one, time. We have this illusion in our mind that we don't have enough time. Right? You've likely said it before. You likely know someone who's said it before. I don't have enough time. I don't have time. If only I had time. If there was more hours in the day. If there was more minutes in the day. If I need an extra day in the week so I can get stuff done, etc., etc., etc. Right? You know how it goes. The reality is this. The one thing that unites all 7+ billion of us people is that we all share the same 24 hours. Yet somehow some are able to get things done and others aren't. I'm willing to bet that if you did some research, you would likely find an instance in modern history of someone who's in a similar situation to you. Maybe they have the same number of kids, same number of job responsibilities, so on and so forth, that's able to accomplish things, is able to get things done. That time is an illusion, it's a myth, because often not, if we really look at our days, if we really look at our life and our priorities, we can find time in there to make things work, if we so choose. But a lot of times we'll keep this excuse of not having enough time around, because ultimately, what does it do? It gives exactly that. It gives us an excuse. It gives us a reason to justify why we remain stuck, why we remain where we are. The next biggest myth is money. I don't have enough money. I can't afford it. It costs too much. If I had this much money, I would this. If I had this much money, I would do that. Again, you know how it sounds. You may have said it before. You may have known somebody who says it before. I can understand that you may not have the exact amount of money you need in your bank account right now to go on a safari in Africa. But what you can do is you can start taking steps right now to address that. Right? You can make it a pledge that every day from this day forward you put $2, you save $2. Every week you save $10. Something like that. If you start looking at money as this thing and say, well, I tell myself I can't afford it, but look at all these things I can afford, right? You can still afford the Starbucks. You can still afford eating out how many times a week, right? You can still, and then if something catastrophic were to happen, God forbid, you could likely figure out a way to make that work, right? The point is this with money. Again, oftentimes we'll say that something's out of our price range, something is unreachable, undoable, because of the excuse it gives us, because it allows us to get off the hook and never step forward into our greatness. If you were to really be pushed to a point where you had to, I'm willing to bet that you could figure out a way to make it work. There's probably been a time in your life where you faced extenuating financial circumstances and somehow you made it work and it worked out okay, right? If it hadn't, you wouldn't be here right now. That being said, understand that more often than not, money and the illusion of lack of money or not having enough of money, we use it as an excuse to keep us stuck, keep things how they are. There's always a way. There's always a way. And again, it may mean that you may not have the money right now to go to that trip to Africa, but what it means also is that you could start putting money away every day for it. It means you could start researching contests, right? Go on a website, look at like a Groupon for African safaris, research contests that offer away giveaways to Africa. Enter in every single contest there is. I mean, there's so many possibilities out there, but we don't allow ourselves to see those possibilities if we limit our vision to one of, I don't have enough money. And finally, the last big myth is there's no sense of urgency, right? We have this idea of AKA I can do it later. There's always going to be tomorrow. Tomorrow I'll finish it tomorrow. I'll get it done tomorrow. Tomorrow will be when I reach out to my friend. Oh, tomorrow I'll call my wife and tell her I love her. Tomorrow I'll let my husband know that I really appreciate all the work he's done. Tomorrow I'll attend my kids, help my kids with their baseball game. Tomorrow I'll do this. Tomorrow I'll do that. The irony of what the tomorrow is whenever we face something tragic in our life, something happens out of the norm, the unexpected, it gets us to connect with this sense of urgency, and we realize, wow, tomorrow really isn't promised. I would have never thought that would happen, and it happened, so it could happen to me. I need to start doing those things I want to do. I need to start living. And maybe for a few days or a few weeks, we might have that resolve in us to really start living, to start making our priorities true priorities. But then what happens? Time goes on, we fall back into our old patterns, our old routines, and we're right back to where we were before, doing what we've always done and ultimately achieving the results we've always gotten. You want to make a significant change, you want to get things to change, and you want to make things different, you have to give a sense of urgency. You have to light a fire under your behind, so to speak. You have to act as if there is no tomorrow. That today and only is today is the time that you have to make a decision, and that decision you make today is ultimately the one that's going to carry you forward towards the next phase of your life, whatever that is you want to be. So a sense of urgency is absolutely crucial to achieving the results you want. And ultimately how I discovered the system. And what I realized is you have to have the right strategy. The first step in creating a system is you got to have the right strategy. So many of us have wrong strategies, and the wrong strategies are, some of the things I was alluding to. I was praying and wishing for the problem to go away. We sometimes go into a never-ending therapy programs, right? 2, 3, 5, 10 years of therapy. I don't remember what it was. I think it was maybe Howard Stern. I heard the story. He's been in therapy for like 20 years or something like that. I can't remember if it was him or somebody else, but ongoing, never-ending therapy. The wrong strategy is just stuff where we do absolutely nothing hoping things will change. Meaning that, again, we're at that fork in the road, and instead of taking action, we sit there and just hope that something will change. Hope our mind makes itself up. So many of us sit there and just stress out, right? We just get to a point where we stress. That doesn't do anything. I found that so many people choose a strategy where they have zero accountability. I'll tell you right now, a key to success is having accountability. I found so often that the right strategy is one that is where we can free ourselves from the walls and the obstacles. But instead, most of us will choose a strategy that's headbanging against the wall, right? We keep banging our head in the wall over and over and over again, and sometime or another, something gives. It's either your head or the wall, whichever breaks first. And oftentimes, people employ a wrong strategy, and a wrong strategy, one that's guaranteed to fail, is one where you have an ineffective mentor. Now, the right strategy. You like my little smiley face? I was really proud of that. The right strategy is going to be one that's a clearly identified focus and step-by-step approach that systematically eliminates stress, builds self-confidence, and provides clear, concise action steps for moving forward. Here's the Zero Limit System's 5 simple steps for getting you unstuck, eliminating stress and anxiety while building confidence so that you can finally live a meaningful life filled with happiness and abundance. I think I've kept you waiting long enough, so let's get to the steps. Step 1, Zero Limits Formula Step 1 is you have to activate your Zero Limits GPS. What does this mean? Well, to activate your GPS, you have to dig through the limiting beliefs and excuses that act as clever decoys to find the real problem. Okay, limiting beliefs and excuses are ultimately, remember what I said earlier about the stress, the lack of self-love, the overwhelm. Those are problems, but they're also a system of a real problem. Now, one of the problems with that is because we will often look at those things and think that's it, meaning that that's the problem. What really happens is stress acts as a decoy, meaning it covers up the real problem, and you're so focused on the stress that you're not getting to the real problem. This is why we want to employ our GPS, activate our GPS, because what that does is it allows us to hone in on exactly what the real problem is, the root of the real problem, and we can eliminate the root permanently. If you imagine a flower garden, you know, your mind, your life is a flower garden, and the problems of your life are the weeds Well, if you go up to a weed and you just chop the top off, what happens? You know, the weed disappears, you can't see it, and you might go along and think, oh, great, the weed's gone, and you continue to live your life. But the root's still growing. So then what happens? The weed shows back up in a couple days, so you chop the top off again. The root's still growing. And not only is the root growing, but it's growing deeper and deeper, and it's getting stronger and stronger. And then what happens? Eventually the weed comes back, and then it doesn't come alone this time. It brings a friend. So now you chop the tops off of both of them. Guess what? The roots are growing stronger and stronger. They come back and bring more friends. The more you keep chopping off the tops, the more the roots get stronger, the more friends they come in. Pretty quickly, your garden is overrun with weeds. No flowers will grow because there's too many weeds. If you want to get rid of the weed, you have to eliminate the root, and you got to do it permanently. Step 2 of the Zero Limits formula is you have to delete your old software. What do we mean by this? Well, old software is those unconscious behaviors that derail our progress. Right? So much of what we do is habit. You take somebody who smokes, right? You ask most people who smoke, and they'll say right up front, I know it's bad for me. I just can't stop. All right, I just can't stop. They know it's bad, but they don't stop because it's almost a habit. It's like they do. This is the same as. Have you ever noticed that you open your car door, you open the door, you wash dishes, you brush your teeth the same way. And next time you brush your teeth, notice that where you start and you go through the same pattern over and over again, because it's old software that we run. And what happens is when we eliminate this old software, it allows for unobstructed forward progress. It's kind of like with your iPhone or your Android device, whatever it is, or your computer. You have to delete the old software on there to make space for the new one. If you want to get the upgrade, you got to get rid of the old stuff to make room for the new. Why do we do this? Well, ultimately, self-sabotaging patterns are run by our unconscious. Recent research suggests that over 90% of who we are is in our unconscious mind, meaning we're not even aware of what it is we're doing. This is why that you repeat the same thing over and over again. You know you don't want to be stressed. You know you don't want to be anxious. You know you don't want to live in fear. You know you don't want to be stuck. But why do you keep doing it? Why are you keep ending up there? Because it's unconscious. Because there's a behavior that you're doing each and every day that you may not even realize it. Something that you're thinking about, something that you're listening to, something that pops up, and that when that happens, it starts a pattern to run that leads you to ultimately feeling stressed and overwhelmed. You see, people who don't delete their own software, what happens is they always will remain on autopilot. And on autopilot, they're going to continue to repeat the same mistakes, and by repeating and getting the same mistakes, they're going to get the same results. This means they'll always be stuck, and they'll never get anywhere new. When it happens is when you obliterate these patterns, and you delete that old software, it opens the door of possibility, because now there's a clean space. And with the clean space, it means that there's space for something new. If you finally eliminate the root and you get it out, guess what? Now you have a space to plant something new in your garden. That new thing you can plant, that seed you put in there, that's the seed of possibility. In that space, you could grow whatever you want to grow. But to grow that, you have to get rid of the stuff that's taking up the space. Zero Limits Formula Step 3 is installing your possibility producer, the Zero Limits Possibility Producer. What is this? Well, the Zero Limits Possibility Producer is what is ultimately going to give you ability to feel happiness, joy, confidence, and more. That's what's going to allow you to create a virtually limitless energy supply you can pull from. And it allows you to fend off feelings of stress and anxiety if they try to creep in. Remember what we talked about before. When we get rid of the root, it creates a space. And we can plant whatever we want into that space. Right? Whatever we want into the space. Meaning that could be happiness, that could be joy, that could be the ability to eliminate anxiety, that could be the skill to fight off stress. See, so often what will happen is people get through the first steps and then they don't take the third, meaning they don't plant the seed. And so the space just stays empty. We have to put something there to help produce possibility. Because the possibilities we can produce in our life are virtually infinite. We just have to produce them. Why are they important? Well, without them, without the possibility producer, you ultimately will continue to experience stress, anxiety, and overwhelm. The reason is because nothing is filling that space. We all know how nature works. Eventually, if that space is not filled, the uncertainty of the void, the uncertainty that comes with that empty space can be kind of scary. And so nature will put something in there for us. Perhaps another weed. The possibility producers are what's going to build confidence. As you start to feel good, as you start to feel happier, and what happens? It builds on it. You start to get confident in your ability to feel happiness. You start to get confident in your ability to feel prosperous and abundant. It builds, right? It builds just the same as when you don't feel good. What happens? When you get stressed, what happens? You start to feel overwhelmed. You start to feel anxious. Remember we talked about that vicious circle, because things follow one another. Like attracts like. And so if we're starting to feel a certain way, a positive way, guess what's going to happen? We're going to start to feel more and more of that, which is going to give us confidence, because then you're going to know that you can do it. Possibility producers are what are going to bring and produce abundance in virtually any aspect of your life. Without a possibility producer, abundance is virtually impossible. Right? How can we produce abundance if our garden is filled with weeds? Well, I shouldn't say that, because we'll have an abundance of weeds. That's not what we want, though. We want the good stuff in life. So the possibility producers are going to be what will allow us to have the good stuff, to create the happiness. See, here's the thing. Your emotions are always going to dictate the quality of your life, which means the quality of your life is going to boil down to the quality of your emotions. If you do not have the quality of life you want right now, it's because of the quality of emotions that you're living with every day. Stress, anxiety, overwhelm, frustration, unhappiness, unfulfilled. Those do not sound like the recipe for a good quality life to me. And I know they don't to you either. Step 4 of the zero limits formula is you want to leverage what's called your zero limits magnet and to take focused action. Here's why. Precise action is going to put your goal in motion. Okay, it's going to do it. And it's going to train your unconscious mind to find more resources, right? The more we act towards something, the more we're going to be able to figure out how to do it, right? So we have to, and most of us, we don't take action because we don't know where to go, right? We have all these paths to choose from, but we don't know which one to choose. And so again, inaction is often the action chosen by most. When you activate your magnet, it's going to give you immediately tangible results, right? You get feedback when you take action. And you can adjust. You can say, oh, well, this worked really well. I'll do more of this. Oh, this didn't work so well. I'll do a little less of this. Oh, I'm going to try this out. Fantastic. Because a magnet is ultimately going to attract what you focus on, right? Magnets attract what you focus on. And so if you're producing a lot of stress, you're experiencing a lot of anxiety in your life, guess what? I would be willing to bet that you're focusing on that a lot. Now, I know you may not be intentionally doing it, but I'm willing to bet you are. And if you position your magnet and start focusing on what you really want, what you want deep down, why you're here, the reason why you're here, then you're going to start attracting more of that into your life. Remember what he said, like attracts life. Now, ultimately, with so many possible paths to take, the wrong one can lead to another wall. That other wall could be something like stress, more anxiety, more fear, more overwhelm, more unhappiness, more unfulfillment. That's why it's so important to be able to focus in on exactly what it is you want and take clear, precise, and laser-focused action towards that. Because in that way, when you're on the path towards what you want, you'll ultimately attract more of that. So why do we leverage our zero limits magnet? Well, here's the thing. An action, like we said, is ultimately the action taken by most. It's just most people will do. Most people find that crossroads. They sit down and they do nothing. They do nothing. They hope, they pray, they wish for things to go away. It doesn't work that way, right? If you have ever produced any results in your life that you didn't want to produce and they stuck around, you'll likely think back to that time and remember and recall that you were not taking action towards changing it. Right? If you find yourself stuck, why are you stuck? Because of the inaction. Because you haven't taken the big dramatic action to break through your wall, to destroy that which is holding you back. Maybe because you didn't know exactly what to take. Well, once you hone in on that path, you understand what it is you need to do and what action you need to take to give you that opportunity to make that change. You'll be able to choose action instead of inaction. Now, when we choose inaction, that path only leads to more stress and anxiety, right? There's only more of the same that comes on that path. Magnets are going to attract what we focus on, for better or worse, good or bad. We've talked about this before. You focus on stress, what happens? You get more stress. You focus on anxiety, what happens? You get more anxiety. And then what ends up happening is you hit that boiling point where you're waking up in the middle of the night, drenched in the sweat of worry, laying there with your heart racing, your hands and palms so clammy, worrying about what's next, wondering if this is it. Is this really all life's got to offer? Happiness and abundance, meaning they're all created through the actions you take. And they aren't created if you don't take action towards them. Happiness and abundance and meanings are not just things, they're things that you create. Meaning it doesn't just happen. You create happiness, you create abundance, you create meaning through the actions you take in life. I want to introduce you to Paula. And Paula has got a really special success story. Paula was somebody who contacted me last year in 2000. Yeah, last year. Yeah, Paula contacted me last year. Lived over in the UK, and she was somebody who existed with no sense of purpose. What led to this was Paula had a heroin problem for over 25 years, and that caused a tremendous amount of stress and heartbreak in her life. Right? She had told me she tried seemingly everything, and she couldn't kick it. And I asked Paula straight up, do you want to do this? She said no. She knew it was bad for her. She knew it was bad for her. And with Paula, what happened is we discovered the real problem. Because remember, the problem seemed to be the heroin. That's a problem, but there was something deeper. There was a root that was leading to her using the heroin. And once we figured out what the real problem was, we destroy the root. Once we were able to destroy the root, we were able to calibrate her zero limits magnet, get her focused on what it is, and give her clear and concise, precise, laser-focused action steps to take. The result? I am thrilled to say that Paula is now living with a strong sense of purpose, and she's filled with a tremendous amount of happiness and joy. Paula's emails, when I get them from her, are some of my favorite to receive because there's just so much happiness that radiate from her. And as of right now, today, she's heroin-free, 38 weeks and counting. Amazing. So let's recap really quick before we get to step 5. The Zero Limits formula for getting unstuck, eliminating stress and anxiety while building confidence so that you can live a meaningful life filled with happiness and abundance. Step 1 is activate your Zero Limits GPS. Remember, step 2 is delete your old software. So get rid of the stuff that's not working. The reason is because we want to create space for new software. When we have that space, we're installing our Zero Limits possibility producers. And lastly, step 4 is we're leveraging our Zero Limits magnet to take focused action. We want to know exactly what it is we're focusing on because magnets are going to attract. And so for better or worse, good or bad, we're attracting that which we focus on. We want to make sure our magnet is pointed towards that which we're focused on. Finally, Zero Limits step 5, effective mentorship. I can't say enough about effective mentorship because here's the thing. I really believe that in life we have two options to create a life that is filled with happiness and abundance, and one that's free from stress. So option 1 is you can figure it out all by yourself and waste a fortune in time and money. I know that because I've done that. I've gone that route many a times in the past, and like I said, everybody wins the lottery. The times I found myself be most successful is when I took another path that I wasn't one I used to travel, which was a path where I would get support and utilize the expertise of someone who had been where I was before. I can't say that enough for you, that if you are really serious and committed to making a change in your life, don't try to go it alone. Because while you could win the lottery, again, you have to ask yourself at what cost comes with traveling that path. If you have the opportunity in front of you, seize it by utilizing get mentorship. Utilize the expertise of someone who has been where you are before. It will shortcut so many of the trials and errors and get you to your goal so much faster. You will be blown away. Think about this. If you were having a heart attack, maybe you find yourself and you're poring over the bills, you're thinking about all your to-dos and your things that get done. If you felt like you were having a heart attack, would you try to figure out yourself how to fix it? Would you try to perform CPR on yourself? Would you try to give yourself some certain medication? Would you start singing Kumbaya and hoping it'd be okay? No, of course you wouldn't. That's like playing Russian roulette with your life and having a bunch of pills and thinking that if you just pop this one, not knowing what any of them are, you're rolling the dice with your life. You would never do that. Because if you take the wrong pill, there's a 1 in however many chance you take the one that actually stops a heart attack from happening, but more likely than not, you take the wrong pill. You give yourself the wrong prescription. You take the wrong advice. You take the wrong guidance. And then what happens? Disaster strikes. Some heart attacks people survive, some they don't. And some who do survive them, their life ends up way the worse. And I hope that you don't have a heart attack. And I use that as an example, not to be dramatic, but to impress upon you how important it is to make the changes right now. Statistically, what's the number one cause for a heart attack? Lifestyle, of which stress and anxiety are the top contributors, amongst the top contributors. Right? That does not have to happen to you. You eliminate the stress, you eliminate the anxiety and the overwhelm from your life. You are taking a quantum leap forward and transforming your life. This system is not something that you should do. This is something you must do because your life literally depends on it. Let me just tell you a little bit about coaching, and then we'll wrap up. Because what coaching and mentorship can give you is it can give you, and the reason I'm going to tell you about this right now is because this is going to tie into my cool gift I have that I want to share with you in a moment. And I just want to give you a little preview about what it's about. Coaching is something that gives you expert level guidance. It's going to help you travel the path of least resistance, right? Again, you do not need to go through the trials and tribulations and all the challenges that are out there. It doesn't have to be that way. There is a smoother path. Doesn't mean you're not going to have to work. You definitely will have to put some work in. But it's guided work. It's focused work. And each step you take, all the work you do, there's immediate feedback from it. Coaching gives you a massive level of accountability. No slacking off, no quitting with coaching. Right? You have to show up. You have to do what you're there to do because I'm holding you accountable to that. With coaching, you get clearly defined focus and specific actions. Again, it's so important when you're at those forks in the road to know which path to choose and choose the path that is going to lead you to what you want in life and not lead you to where more of what you don't want in life. And coaching is going to help you, is guiding you. I always like to tell my clients that I like to be the tour guide of their life. Meaning I can help them navigate the trails and the trials and tribulations through life to get them to where they want to be in the safest and most effective way possible. Coaching gives you a massive return on your investment, ongoing support, and a tool chest of skills and tools that you can use every single day for the rest of your life to helping ensure that this stuff sticks. I can't say it any simpler than this. Your environment always wins. You know this. I don't need to get into too much detail with this, but here's the thing. It's been shown that we're the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. And if you're surrounding yourself with people who are not lifting you up to the heights you want to get to, who are not believing in you, who are not supporting you, who are not pushing you out of your comfort zone, who are not challenging you to be your best version of yourself, you stay where you are. It's that simple. If you want that to start to shift, you have to start changing your environment and surrounding yourself with people, key people who are going to lift you to those heights, hold you to the standard that you know you should be holding yourself to. And you have a choice with that. Here's how I can help. Since you've sat through this whole thing and you've been such a great audience, I want to offer you this. I've set aside some time to speak with you personally so I can help you eliminate the stress and anxiety right away and fast track you to happiness and abundance. This is my gift to you, cost zero. Remember what I said in the very beginning? One of my favorite things to do and all the things I do is what I was going to share with you at the end. This is my gift to you. I am so blessed to be able to meet with people from all over the world and help them do these types of things. And it would be my honor and my privilege to be able to do that with you. This is absolutely zero cost to you, and I encourage you to take advantage of it, because if you don't, I want you to think about this. What's it costing you to remain stuck? How many more sleepless nights and uninspired days are you willing to go through? How many more days of constant stress and anxiety are you willing to face? How much longer do you want to live with the overwhelm and the frustration and those feelings following you everywhere? How many more unfulfilling relationships do you want to go through? How much more of your money do you want to squander and waste? How much longer do you want to live with uncertainty? Do you want to continue missing out on life, on love, and on happiness? Do you want to continue to live your life weighed down by that feeling that you're meant to more? Meaning you have to continue to go through life knowing that there's that magic inside of you, but you're just going to keep accepting that you're not going to realize it. How much longer do you want to let your unfulfilled potential go unfulfilled? That's a tragedy. It does not need to be that way. Think about what it costs you to remain stuck. Being disconnected with your friends, your family, your kids. Again, life doesn't have to be that way. So who's this opportunity for? Well, this is for you if you're committed. If you're someone who's committed to reaching the pinnacle of possibility in your life, This is for you if you're somebody who's serious and fully ready to get unstuck and become unstoppable. This is for you if you are fed up with feelings of stress and anxiety, and those feelings of stress and anxiety running your life, and you're ready to eliminate them once and for all. This is for you if you desire happiness and joy and love and confidence. This is for you if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. And this is for you if you're ready to create abundance in your life once and for all. Well, why am I doing this? 2 reasons. 1, because you know my story, you know I've been there, you know I've struggled, and you know I've gotten through this, and you know I've gone through the hard times. And so I hope that by understanding where I've been and what I've gone through, it gives you a sense that you can relate to me, that you can trust me, and that I'm somebody that can help you. And like I said, my joy in life is helping people, and I really want to be able to do that with you. And here's the thing. During our call, I'm going to help you get complete clarity on how exactly to use your zero limit system so that you can finally live a meaningful life, one that's filled with happiness. I want to help you get the same results as Sani did. Sani reached out to me, and when she did, she had been stuck for a really long time. During our work together, she was able to move past a 25-plus-year-old trauma, eliminated the overwhelming stress and anxiety that plagued her, and now, as she writes it, wakes up every morning happy and grateful for being alive. This is something that is possible for you, so click the link or visit the website, please. You know, as they say, old habits die hard. If you were to ever ask a smoker if it's good for them or healthy for them, most of them will probably say no. If you ever ask them why don't they quit, they'll say something. Many of them will say, well, I know I should, but I can't, or I just don't want to. Why is that? You know, we will do things over and over again, even if we know it's bad for us, but we won't stop. Smokers will literally smoke themselves to death. They know they're putting that cancer stick in their mouth, but they don't stop. Our habits, especially the ones that are not good for us, the unempowering habits, they will kill us. They will suck the life right out of us if we don't do something to change them. And this is your opportunity to do that. Please click the link or visit the website. You know, I have a question for you. What happens if you keep going and nothing gets better? Really think about that for a second. A lot of times we leave programs like this and we think, well, that was some really good information, but I'm just going to try to go it alone for a while. You've likely tried that approach before, so you know the answer to this question already. That what happens if nothing changes and you just keep trotting along like you have been? It leads to more sleepless nights, more uncertainty, more missed opportunities, more stress and worry and anxiety. It's more of what you've already lived. And the reason you're here right now is because you've already lived that way before for so long that it's done. It's time to be past. So you need to click the link now so we can set up our strategy session and fix this once and for all. Think about it this way. I mean, if you wanted to scale Mount Everest, you wouldn't try to do it without a guide, would you? Of course not. You're talking about the largest mountain in the world that has some of the most unpredictable weather patterns. Average temperatures are in the minus hundreds Fahrenheit. You have winds and trails and ice and all these other things to navigate. You have altitude you have to contend with. If you were to want to scale Mount Everest, you would get a guide. Why would you get a guide? Because you want to get to the top. Not only do you want to get to the top, but you want to get there safely, soundly. You value your life enough to invest in a guide to get you to the top, to help you navigate the terrain in the safest and fastest way possible. Think of your problem, think of your present situation in life as like climbing Mount Everest. And I use the analogy because I bet at some point it probably has felt that way, a nearly insurmountable mountain to climb. But even just like Mount Everest, even what you're going through can be conquered. It's just if you utilize the expert guidance of a guide, I promise you'll get there a lot faster. So click the link and let's fix this. You know, if all we did was this, think about our time together, this strategy session that you're going to be doing with me in this way. If you just set aside a few minutes of your time, which is what I'm asking of you, and it would help you get unstuck, would that be worth it? If in just a few minutes of time we were able to reduce some of your worry and daily stress, would it be worth it? If in just a few minutes of your time we were able to eliminate some of the anxiety that's plaguing you, would it be worth it? If in just a few minutes of your time, if you just set aside a few minutes, invested a few minutes in yourself, and you and I created a plan for your next stages of life, the next action steps, we figured out some laser focused action steps to take, would it be worth it? If you set aside a few minutes of time when you do this strategy session with me, and you're able to get out a strong sense of certainty for the future, isn't that worth it? This is your opportunity to do this. So please click the link below. Listen, I'm nothing special. I was nearly kicked out of college. I had a GPA of 113 my first quarter, which, to give you an idea, that's an F and 2 C minuses. I struggled academically. I used to stress myself out to the point of I get hive breakouts. At one point, I put myself nearly $40,000 in debt. Yet I'm still able to accomplish all that I have. I say that because I'm not some boy wonder or someone that hasn't been where you are and didn't struggle and go through it. I say it because if I can do it, I promise you that you can do it too. And it's my honor to be able to help you. So please click the link. Let's set this up and let's fix this permanently. Because the real question is it worth it to you? Is it worth it to you to invest just a few minutes of your time to figure out how to get unstuck, how to eliminate your stress and anxiety, and build confidence so that you can live a meaningful life, a life that's filled with happiness and abundance? You're always just one click away from doing that. One click away. I promise you it's worth your time. Let me ask you this. What would your life look like if it was exactly how you want it to be right now? Imagine you had a crystal ball and you could peer through that ball and you could see into the future and you could see a couple months out in the future. What does your life look like? Is it you waking up in the morning with birds chirping and a smile across your face? Is it your relationships with your friends, your family, your lover, your kids? Are they closer? It's closer than they've ever been before because you're able to be present. Do you have a new sense of purpose in your life? Do you wake up the day with a purpose and a focus because you know that you're meant for more, and not only that, but you know what that is? Do you walk into work feeling happy and joyful as opposed to going in there dreading showing up? Are you sleeping through the night so you wake up in the morning feeling refreshed? Do you feel like you're now unstoppable? You're no longer stuck, but you're now unstoppable. And look into the future and what can you do with that energy? Right? Just allow yourself to go there. Allow yourself to imagine that life. Allow yourself to imagine what it's like when you are exactly where you want to be. Are you traveling more? Are you earning more income? What does that life look like? These things are possible for you, but you have to take the first steps to make them possible. One thing is for certain, doing nothing ensures that nothing changes. But if you do something you haven't done before, you're virtually guaranteed to get a different result. So please click the link. And let's fix this together. What is it worth to you to begin living your days free from the burden of stress, anxiety, and overwhelm? I really think about this. Is it worth more time with your kids? Is it worth having less? To have less stress, to have a deeper connection to your loved ones? What is it worth to you to get a strong sense of purpose and to begin sleeping soundly through the night? What is it worth it to you to be confident and certain about the future? To live each day filled with happiness? What is it worth it to you to be able to create abundance in your life? You and I can do this. We can set out a path together and really fix these things. You've watched the whole webinar at this point. You know I've been able to run through this process with nearly 4,000 people. I would love for you to be the next one. Please click the link and we'll set up our strategy session to do this together. Lastly, you want to know the biggest reason why I struggled for so long? If I was to be perfectly honest with you, it's because I didn't get out of my own way. I was so stuck in my stuff and so stubborn in my ways that I was always my own obstacle, right? I had such narrow vision. It was like my peripheral vision was taken away, and all I could see was my pain. All I could see was my problems. All I could see was the stress, the anxiety, the worry. All I could see was my debt and my bad grades and the hives and all those types of things. That it wasn't until I was able to remove myself from the situation and start to look at it from an outsider's perspective. That involved me getting a coach, somebody to work with, getting a guide to help me, getting mentors to help guide me through it. That when that process happened and I was out of my own way, all of a sudden my life started to change. And it didn't just change slowly, but the exchange was accelerated. Because once I was able to get through one thing, I realized I could. Suddenly Mount Everest shrunk down and it became just a local mountain. Still a challenge, but completely climbable. And I knew I could do it. And I promise you this, that if I can do it, you can too. And it's going to be my honor to help you, to team up with you, and for you and I to work through this together and fix this so that you can begin living the life that you deserve. The life that you were born to live. A life that's filled with happiness. A life that's filled with abundance. A life that's filled with joy and prosperity and purpose. And one that's free from stress, free from anxiety, and free from overwhelm. Your fear has cost you too much for too long. It's time for you to go confidently into the future and really embrace this life that you were born to live. Please click the link below, visit the website, fill out the short form, and you and I are going to work through this together. Thank you so much for being here, for listening. It's been my honor to share this time with you, and it's going to be my honor to meet with you in the strategy session and take you to that next level. All right? Live a great day today, and we will speak very soon. Bye-bye.